We're joined now by Samantha de Bendern, who's a Russian analyst, worked for the EU and NATO, so those organisations thinking of what the West should do next. And Sir Richard Shirreff, who is the former deputy commander of NATO and wrote a book called War with Russia 5 years ago, warning of precisely this, a war with Russia. Thank you both for joining us. To Sir Richard first, your reaction to the invasion this morning and what it means.
Well, a sense of profound sadness and grief for the people of Ukraine, because what we're about to, or what we are witnessing, what is unfolding is likely to be warfare on a scale unseen in Europe since 1945, with catastrophic consequences for the people of Ukraine, civilian population, refugees, and the state of Ukraine, because I think it's pretty clear that Putin is bent on nothing less than the destruction of Ukraine as a state.
Well, indeed. And Samantha, what do you think President Putin's plan is here? I mean, how far might he go?
I think he plans to go all the way to Lviv, which is on the border with Poland, which is a NATO member state. The question now is, how far will he go beyond Ukraine? One of the big problems that we have here are our gas supplies and the gas supplies of the European continent that come from Russia. As you may remember, in 2008, Putin attacked Georgia, and that is a vital second gas route from which Europe and the UK could get gas from the Caspian region. I've been worried about what's going to happen and where he's got his sights next beyond Ukraine.
And what do you mean by that? Do you mean the countries, the former, I guess, Soviet republics? Has he got his eyes on those countries which have become independent? Would he dare go into those countries?
Well, he's dared going into Ukraine. I don't see why he shouldn't dare go into anywhere else. Last week, Putin contacted the president of Azerbaijan to reassure him he's not going to invade him. The fact that he feels the need to reassure him he's not going to invade him certainly indicates that there is discussion of that in the region. And Georgia is a vital pipeline route to get gas into Europe without going through Ukraine or Russia. If I were Putin and I wanted to strangle the West in terms of energy, that is what my eyes would be on next. And I know that people are looking at that very seriously.
Okay.
He's not going to stop at Ukraine at this point.
Oh, OK. And so, Richard, you have to ask yourself, can we do without Russia's oil and gas? We heard about the sanctions. Boris Johnson stood up in the Commons saying that he's strengthening them. So he's excluding Russian banks from the sterling system. There are asset freezes. Aeroflot, the Russian airline, will be banned from here. And he said we must strengthen NATO's defences still further. Is that far enough as you're concerned, do you think?
Well, to your first question, if we've got to do without Russian gas, we've got to, and that's the way it is. Sanctions have got to be applied. They've got to be as tough as possible. There can be no pussyfooting around as there was yesterday. So the effort has got to be concentrated, and sanctions have got to hurt. And if they hurt us, well, so much. We've just got to put up with it because we're facing potentially an existential struggle. As far as the military side is concerned, what is essential now is that NATO really steps up. And that means all of us, every man, woman, and child in this country and in every NATO member, have to recognize that our security, our peace, our stability is dependent on deterrence. And that is demonstrating a real military capability to defend every inch of NATO territory, particularly, of course, in the former republics of the Soviet Union, 3 of which are part of NATO: Estonia, Latvia, and Lithuania, as well as Romania and Bulgaria. And that means mobilizing military force on a scale that we have not seen for a very long time in this country.
So, Richard, just to be clear, are you saying boots on the ground, effectively? We go beyond economic sanctions?
I am saying absolutely no to any form of boots on the ground, NATO boots on the ground in Ukraine. That would precipitate and guarantee the Third World War. What I am saying is British and other allied boots on the ground in Estonia, Latvia, Lithuania, Romania and Bulgaria. Mm-hmm. Absolutely. It is now the time to man the ramparts of NATO.
Manning the ramparts of NATO, Samantha. Do you agree?
I agree, absolutely. And what we are seeing in countries like Poland, like the Czech Republic, and like the Baltics, we're actually seeing volunteers going in and joining the Ukrainians. This is a phenomenon that we have been seeing since 2014, that these are unofficial people. This is not boots on the ground, but these are Ukraine's neighbors who feel an existential threat right now from their Russian neighbor, who are going in illegally, that's true, to help their Ukrainian friends fight this threat. But it is an existential threat. Ukrainians today are not only fighting for Ukraine, they're not only fighting for the freedom of Ukraine, they are fighting for our values and they are fighting for our freedom. And we must never forget that.
So, Richard, do you think Putin will back down if the West flexes its muscles?
I think Putin, two things. I think number one, Putin could well run into trouble with a major assault into Ukraine. Ukrainians will fight like devils, and Putin has got to, he's going to have to control Ukraine, and that is not going to be easy. He is not going to back down if he senses any sort of weakness at all. So that is why NATO has to be there in strength. And the Russians, we need to remember, respect and understand strength. And Putin has been watching the cumulative disarmament in the West, in this country and other European countries over the past decade plus, and now has decided to take advantage of that disarmament. So it's going to take a lot, but we have got to do what it takes to demonstrate the strength. And only then he might back down. But what is certain is that unless we demonstrate strength, he won't back down.
Sir Richard Shirreff and Samantha de Bendern, thank you both.